So here today, I share with you all my mirror deck, starting with my mana base. The biggest concentration of the deck would be the Locust lands, because the Locust lands are really good. You start off with a playset of Cloudpost, which comes into play tapped, add 1 mana to your mana pool for each Locust in play. That could be yours, your opponent's, anyone's. Vesuva isn't a Locust land, but it comes into play as a copy of a land that's in play. So that's any land. Could be your opponent's, could be yours. And say you don't have a Cloudpost out, you could use it for your Urza's lands that I also have in the deck. Same thing with Espion Stage. Make copies of other lands. So this one is better in my opinion because it's more adaptable. So if you only have Urza's lands out, you could then move it to make it a copy of a Cloudpost at a later point once you get one out. And Glimmerpost is really good. Once it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life for each Locust on the battlefield. So if you only have the cards in your deck, then you could gain a lot of life from that, because I'm starting with 16 life, up to 13, 14, 15, then 16 life. So then next would be the Urza's lands. Urza's Tower, Urza's Power Plant, and Urza's Mine. Together, when you have at least 1 of each, Tower will tap for 3, Power Plant will tap for 2, and Mine will also tap for 2, which generates for a lot of mana. Now, on to the main deck. Creatures. 4 Platinumers that are 3 cost, tap for 2, and the main focus for those is to play Mercuperion, which requires creature mana, and it is a 2 cost for a 5/6, which is pretty good in beat stick. Now, next would be on the Mirror Galvanizers, which I'm sure a lot of people know. It's 3 cost for a 2/2 that gives each of your other mirror creatures a +1/+1 bonus, and it has 1 in tap to untap each other mirror you control. So, with just 2 of those and a Palladium mirror, you have an infinite mana source. For colorless mana, that is. Now, next in the deck are 4 Mirror Battlespheres, because what they do is 7 cost for a 4/7 that bring in 4 tokens the instant you bring it out, and when it attacks, you can tap X on tap mirror you control, and it gets +X+0 until end of turn and deals X damage to the defending player. So it's an instant burn, plus gives it a bonus. But I generally only use it to bring up the 4 tokens. Now next is, just in case, Shimmermer, which allows you to play all your artifacts at instant speed, which comes really good into play with my Unwinding Clock, which allows all artifacts to control during each other player's untap step. So therefore, say with Platinummer, they would untap, and then I could play something new from my hand. Now, Steel Hellkite. It's not a main focus of the deck, but it's a 6 for flying, because it's the only creature that has flying without other abilities. And Steel Hellkite and gets +1/+0 until end of turn by paying 2 mana, or X, destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X whose controller was dealt damage by Steel Hellkite this turn. So your opponent has something that you don't like, you fly over them, and then you pay mana to blow whatever it is up. Now, Steel Overseer. It's tapped, put a +1/+1 counter on each artifact creature you control. It's 2 for a 1/1, and which is really good, especially come into play with the Unwinding Clock, because then you just tap it every person's turn. Now, I have 2 Platinum Angels and 2 Platinum Empyreans. The Angel, you can't lose, your opponent can't win, and the Empyrean, your life total can't change. So if you're not getting your Glimmer Posts out fast enough for the life gain, that prevents you from losing the life. Now, Memnarch, as you can see, it requires blue mana for its effect. Target permanent becomes an artifact for 1 and 2 blue, or 3 and 1 blue, you gain control of target artifact. However, with Mycosynth Lattice, all permanents are artifacts in addition to their other types, therefore meaning you don't have to use that first 3 mana, and players may spend mana as though it were mana of any color, which with a massive source of mana in the deck, you could start taking control of all your opponent's permanents pretty easy. Now, another good combo in the deck, Darksteel Forge, and Niflheim's Disc, combined with the Mycosynth Lattice, because everything is now artifacts, and your artifacts have indestructible, and then 1 and tap, you destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, so therefore you're constantly board wiping your opponent every time. Now, as you noticed, the Cloud Posts and the Nivernral's Disc enter tapped. So, to answer that, I have 2 Amulet of Vigors. So whenever a permanent enters the battlefield tapped and under your control, you untap it for a 1 cost, which instantly is really good for speeding up the Locust lands. Now, next, Coat of Arms, because it is mainly a tribal deck of just mere creatures. So and it generates a lot of tokens quickly, so you pump them all up pretty powerful. And then Akroma's Memorial. With all that pumped up, then you swing over everything, and once you get Akroma's Memorial out, it is basically instant game if you have a lot of creatures. Now, moving on to some of the non-mirror cards in the deck that are placed in bigger parts. Endless One. So you just sink a whole lot of mana into it, and it comes into play with that many +1/+1 counters onto it. So if you don't have many creatures but a lot of mana, that goes for a big beat stake. Emrakul, what to say, 15 of any color, so pure colorless deck with the massive mana production. It can't be countered, and when you play it, you take an extra turn. Flying, protection from colored spells, and Annihilator 6. So I was wrong, there is another flyer. And the Annihilator 6, so they have to sacrifice 6 permanents the moment it attacks before blocking. And colored spells, so nothing colored can block it, nothing colored can target it, which is really amazing. And then, when it's put into the grave from anywhere, so you mill it, you shuffle your whole graveyard back into your library. It's pretty nice. Desolation Twin, 10 for 2 10/10s. That's pretty good for 10 mana. And now, next would be 4 Mirror Turbines. So you tap to put a 1/1 colorless mana, or colorless Mirror Artifact creature token, or tap and tap 5 untap Mirror you control. You search your library for a Mirror creature card, put it onto the battlefield, and shuffle your library. So the first thing, ideally, you would search for with this deck would be a Mirror Battlesphere, which would allow you then to search for something else if you had another one out. to generate a lot of tokens quickly, which is where Myr Incubator comes into play. 6, tap and sacrifice it. You search your library for any number of artifact cards, remove them from the game, then put that many 1/1 Myr artifact creature tokens into play. So that will allow you to thin your deck to only the artifacts you really need, or some of the other cards from that point forth. And it'll allow you to basically shut down the deck to only lands that you are in desperate need of. Now, really good is Myr Matrix. It's indestructible, so on its own, so therefore it avoids the board wipe. It gives all Myr a bonus for 5, and 5 you put a token onto it. So I find sometimes I encounter a lot of board wipe. So with that, and with my mana production, I'm able to start generating a lot of tokens pretty quickly to save myself from the board wipe. Now, Argentum Armor is also really good. It gives the creature +6/+6, and whenever it attacks, you destroy a target permanent. So you get rid of some pretty ugly stuff. And lastly is 2 All Is Dusts, because all of my cards are colorless. 7 cost, and each player sacrifices all colored permanents he or she controls. So that basically board wipes my opponents pretty quickly, and therefore, and that leaves me with a lot of stuff still. So that's it. I've never seen another Myr deck quite like mine after countless searching. So yeah, there you go. There's my Myr deck.